Yes guys, welcome back to another Fantasy Football Fix YouTube video. My name is FPL Nacho, and in this video we are going to be looking at those top transfers going into game week 4 with the performances of Maddison and Sterling and those budget defenders really starting to step up. We need to talk about which ones you need to prioritize for your team. So as always, make sure you do drop a like on the video and of course smash that subscribe button. And without further ado, let's get into today's video. So first up, as I mentioned, we need to talk about Raheem Sterling and James Maddison, who had a fantastic game week 3 performance. Sterling, of course, with that brace and assists being the highest point scorer of the game week. We're starting to see that Raheem Sterling that we saw at Man City. We've had question marks of him in a Chelsea shirt. Could this now be the time for him to step up? Whereas James Maddison looks like he's been playing at Spurs for years. He is the heartbeat of anything good that is happening in that team. And Spurs look like they are starting to click into motion with players actually understanding the way they need to play in this system, not like a Conte team that we saw last year. So, as I discussed, Sterling and Maddison are proven to be fantastic FPL value because of the price points that they are at. Raheem Sterling at 7.1 million, James Maddison at 7.6 million. We're going to take a look at their underlying stats per 90 minutes for the opening 3 game weeks. So first up, expected goals are equal, 0.38 per 90 for both players. And I think this is even more impressive for someone like a James Maddison because Sterling has played a little bit of time alongside Nicholas Jackson as a forward in a 3-5-2 formation. But it's worth noting that they are kind of a bit flexible with Sterling going out to the right, playing as a 3 alongside Nicholas Jackson and sometimes Ben Chilwell. James Maddison's role in this Spurs team is a lot more clearer, playing as a number 8, but some would argue is a number 10 alongside Sarr and Basuma, but really being that man that is getting on the ball in all of the right areas, being that creative force in this Spurs team. And it really does feel like with James Maddison that if Spurs are going to do well, he is going to do well, being the heartbeat of everything. And we can see that in the expected assist numbers as well per 90, 0.37 for Maddison, really, really solid numbers. Sterling, decent numbers as well at 0.24. But what is quite impressive here is the big chances for both players. 0.71 per 90 for James Maddison, 0.69 for Sterling. Another indication that these players are getting into good goal scoring opportunities. But when I had a look at the touch sheet maps, it is natural to assume that Sterling is getting more penalty box touches, whereas Maddison's getting more of his in the middle third of the opponent's half, just because he is that creative force in those pockets. Sterling is the one running beyond the defenders, as we saw against Luton. Now, naturally, because of the numbers that Maddison's put up, his expected FPL points per 90 are slightly that above of Sterling's. And it's worth noting as well, long term, over the next period of game weeks 4 to game week 7, Maddison is slightly ahead of Raheem Sterling at 18.7 points to the 17.8 of Raheem Sterling. Now, of course, we can't just look at underlying numbers. We need to look ahead at the fixtures coming up for both teams. And I think game week 4 we all knew was an amazing fixture for Chelsea at home against Nottingham Forest to go alongside the game week 3 fixture that they had against Luton. Beyond that, Bournemouth away, I think that's quite a tricky fixture. I don't think Bournemouth are any pushovers. Then at home against Aston Villa, who we know are a fantastic team. And away against Fulham, who had that upset against Arsenal just the game week gone. Spurs, on the other hand, I think do have a bit more of a mixed period. Burnley away, followed by Sheffield United at home, look like 2 fantastic attacking potential games. Burnley not necessarily as defensive resolute as I thought they would be in the opening 2 games that we've seen in the Premier League, followed by some tricky games away against Arsenal, that North London derby, and then at home against Liverpool, who I would argue aren't necessarily to be feared from a defensive perspective. It's worth noting beyond the Liverpool game, Spurs then do have 2 good fixtures after that. So it's 2 good, 2 bad, 2 good for Spurs. Now, if I was looking to invest in one of these going into game week 4, I think naturally the temptation would be to go to Raheem Sterling for that home game against Nottingham Forest. But for me, it's all about James Maddison. Now, I know we need to pay a little bit more, 0.5 million more. But if you're coming down from a Martinelli, for example, who I know is quite a hot topic right now in the community to sell, I know you could afford James Maddison in your team, and I think he is absolutely worth it. I think Spurs are looking good under Ange. I know it's short term that we're looking at, but Maddison is the heartbeat of this team, as I discussed. He's going to play every single minute as long as he doesn't get injured. And importantly, he's on corners and set pieces. So it just adds another string to his bow that even if he's having a bad game, he could pick up a rogue assist here and there from a set piece header. And for that very reason, even though Arsenal away and Liverpool at home are tricky fixtures of Spurs in the short term, I would go for the man that is going to play every minute and is the creative force in that team in James Maddison. The other reason why I probably would not be as tempted to go to Sterling is because a lot of managers have already got Ben Chilwell and moved to Nicholas Jackson in game week 3. If you go to Sterling, you're doubling up on that Chelsea attack, who I still don't think are ticking as I want them to see. I need a few more games to get an understanding of whether Sterling is going to be the absolute man to own in that attack. So for that reason, James Maddison is going to be my pick of the two. But let me know your thoughts in the comments here. I think it is close. So next up, let's move into some other midfielders that are absolutely catching the eye that need to be on our radar. Now, those two players are going to be West Ham's Bowen and Aston Villa's Diaby. Now, when Bowen's price dropped in pre-season at 7 million, I think we all spoke about how it was great value, but it was the price and the value of the 6.5 million midfielders, which basically made him a redundant FPL option. When you got people like Mbeumo, Mitoma, Eze and Diaby at cheaper prices to Bowen, you start to not necessarily consider him as an FPL option. However, he has been fantastic in the opening game weeks for West Ham, a team that I think we've all wrote off a little bit with the absence of Declan Rice. I think with the signings that they've made, Alvarez in the midfield, James Ward-Prowse, and now Kudos, they are going to be a strong team once again in the Premier League, and I expect them to finish mid-table. And for someone at 7 million, with Bowen basically being the highest man on that West Ham team, the average touch heat map you can see is even further beyond Antonio. An XG of 0.56 per 90 is not to be sniffed at all. They are some fantastic underlying numbers for a midfielder priced at 7 million. An XA of 0.25 is not actually bad for me. I want the player that is going to be hogging the goal threat, and Bowen is that man in that West Ham team. Now, of course, the introduction to someone like a Kudos might change things going forward, but I think with Bowen, I want to see him being the XG monster and everything filtering through him. And if that is the case, at 7 million, he's offering fantastic value. And we can see that also in the big chances, averaging 1 per 90 minutes. Now, when we look at Diaby, on the other hand, 6.6 million. So we had a slight price increase not too long ago, and he has looked unbelievable in this Aston Villa team. It's hard to forget that he's actually in his debut season. It looks like he's been in the team for a long time, and he's adapted to the pace of the Premier League very, very quickly. Now, what I do love about Diaby, similar to Bowen, is he's basically playing out of position. He's playing as a forward alongside Watkins, which is what we dream of when we are buying FPL midfielders. Now, a 0.32 XG per 90 isn't at the same level as Jarrod Bowen, but he is offering that expected assists at 0.68 per 90. And what I really do like about Diaby is that he has that relationship already alongside Watkins. One goes long, one comes short into the half spaces, and it really makes it difficult for centre-backs to pick up one another. And that's why we're seeing Aston Villa linking up so well in that final third, because defenders don't know whether to come into midfield and pick these players up or not. And what I like about Diaby as well is that he is so powerful, such a strong runner, that I think he's always going to be looking to go beyond the defence, therefore create chances and also get himself into goal scoring opportunities. Now, he hasn't had the big chances, but I do think they are going to come from what I've seen from an eye test perspective, because we need to remember it's only 3 game weeks worth of information, and he is still getting up to speed with the Premier League. Now, the major downside with both of these assets is the fixtures that they have coming up. West Ham in game week 4 have the pick of the fixtures away against Luton, but it is a very difficult player to bring in like a Bowen for one game week, knowing that they have Man City and Liverpool following that. Now, if you view those 2 games as opportunities for West Ham to do a number on like they did against Brighton, then he might be a shrewd transfer. As game week after that, they do have Sheffield United at home. So either side of those tricky fixtures, they have some of the best fixtures available. Diaby, on the other hand, longer term, has some trickier fixtures. Now, Liverpool away, I would argue Aston Villa can definitely get at them from a defensive perspective. Palace, we know, are a tough cookie defensively, followed by Chelsea and Brighton. So I wouldn't say these are teams that are necessarily defensively sound, but they are tricky games nonetheless for Aston Villa. And we need to remember they also have European League football alongside this, which is going to be a little bit of an impact on the fatigue of the players and the rotation of the squad. So because of that reason, I don't think investing in these two players right now is the best move. I like Bowen as a 1 week punt, but I don't like him as a longer term horizon player. I think for now we keep monitoring these. We probably see them tick over nicely, but we look to invest later down the line when the fixture swing does happen. But these two need to be on your radar nonetheless. So last up, I want to move on to some budget defenders that are absolutely flying that we need to consider for our teams. Now, those two are going to be Spurs' Udogie and Chelsea's Gusto. Nearly got the name wrong there. So both at fantastic price points. Udogie at 4.6 million. Gusto at such a cheap price at 4.1 million. Now, the reason why they're getting a lot of attention right now is because they are offering themselves as attacking fullbacks or wingbacks in the systems that they're playing. Now, Ange's team with the formation is a little bit more structured. We know that they're playing a back four with Basuma in the 6, 2 8s, and then the wide man is Son and Kulusevski with Richarlison down the middle. But what Udogie is doing so well is Son is keeping the touchline very, very wide, and Udogie is making these underlapping runs, getting himself into fantastic goal-scoring opportunities. And we can see that with his XG per 90 at 0.12 and his expected assists at 0.30. Now, Malo Gusto, on the other hand, is a little bit harder to predict. Pochettino has played a back three with a 3-5-2 formation, with Gusto playing as a right wing back in that team. And he has got himself into some good attacking opportunities. However, the goal scoring opportunities haven't been there yet. Again, it's a small sample size, but 0.03 XG suggests that he isn't getting into those goal scoring opportunities that we see Ben Chilwell get into in that left wing back role. And the expected assists at 0.21 per 90, a lot of that coming in that Luton game. So I don't want to jump to conclusions that he is going to be suddenly a Trent Alexander-Arnold of creative numbers. But the big chances created per 90 are looking good. Once again, a lot of that coming in the Luton at home fixture. Expected FPL points naturally in Gusto's side because of the chances that he's created. But going forward in the next 4 fixtures, it's actually Udogie who is leading the way at 12.8 points. Gusto at 9.7, but I would say the risk of minutes later down the line once Reece James returns is the reason why the predicted points of Malo Gusto are slightly less. Now, looking at the fixtures, I think they both have mixed fixtures. The next 2 for Spurs look great. Burnley and Sheffield United, followed by some tricky fixtures away against Arsenal and at home against Liverpool. Chelsea, on the other hand, I would say are fixtures where you could play Malo Gusto in all of those if you need to. And what I like about both of these defenders is because of their price points, 4.6 and 4.1 million, you don't have to play them week in, week out if your defensive structure is good enough. You could have that a Stupinan, a Chilwell, maybe another 4.5 million defender or a 5 million. And because of the price points of these players, if you simply got to a fixture that you didn't like and you had the rotation available, you could simply bench them knowing that it is the right decision. Whereas if you pay 5.5 million, 6 million for a defender, you feel like you have to play them week in, week out. And this is why I like these budget options, as they give us that rotation in those trickier fixtures. So which one would I target? The fixtures for both aren't necessarily the greatest, but for me, I would go for Spurs' Udogie. The main reason being is he's such an attacking threat in this Spurs side. I've seen really strong things from both the numbers and the eye test. We know Ange does love him. There could be rotation with Ben Davies later down the line if there is fatigue, but I would say the exact same could be said of Gusto if they do return to a back four with Desasi playing at right back. And we also need to get an update on the Reece James situation, which he could return after the international break. The other reason why I don't like Malo Gusto as much is because a lot of managers sat there right now have Ben Chilwell, and the double up in the Chelsea defence just doesn't feel like the right route to go for. Also knowing that both Sterling and Nicholas Jackson are on everybody's radar, if you go for Gusto and Chilwell in your fence, you are blocking out one of those attackers if Chelsea do start to hit the ground running over the coming game week. So Udogie is the pick for me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and that just leaves me to say thank you so much for tuning into this Game Week 4 Top Transfers video. I really hope it's provided some value. Make sure you do drop a like and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.